TIAA is on a mission. Why? Because 54% of Black Americans don't have enough savings to retire. So in collaboration with big-name artists like Wyclef Jean, TIAA released Paper Right, new music inspiring a new financial future. With 100% of streaming sales going to a nonprofit that teaches students how to invest. Stream Paper Right now and help close the gap.
Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode. I'm really excited about today's guest, Sugey Piedra. And today's talk is all about bread and butter. If you don't know, it's financial literacy, financial freedom, either investing, real estate, equities, just financial planning, all of that bread and butter. And I'm really happy to introduce Sugey to the show. So Sugey, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Such a pleasure.
Yeah, kind of set the stage, tell people your background, how you got here, what you do, and we are going to dive right into the conversation.
Yes. So, what I do is unique in a sense because of how a lot of us have never really heard of what tax planning is. So we've all heard of tax preparation. We all know we have to do taxes, at a certain time during tax season. Whether we dread it or not, it's a requirement, right? Well, what I do is not just the tax preparation. I love planning and strategizing. So what that means is we're a lot more proactive. We design the return to legally look the way you want it to look. And for those individuals that are out there that are just tired of paying taxes and really want to take control, planning and strategizing is the best way. And that's what I do. That's what I love. That's my passion behind it all.
Yeah, I love the proactive approach. I love, as opposed to being reactive, I love just strategizing, strategy. You see the future, the vision, and you have a plan and you execute on it. So kind of talk about your daily work as co-founder of Prominence Business and Wealth Management, and you've also got a podcast as well. So kind of talk about, what you do in your company.
Yes, of course. So my sisters and I started a business, and we do pretty much anything that has to do with a business startup, with, maybe running payroll, doing the bookkeeping, and then doing the tax preparation, the tax planning, and all that good stuff. So what our mission is just to get the message out there that if you're proactive with your numbers, they're telling us a story. So if you want to retire early, if you're just tired of paying taxes, if you want to create generational wealth, what is it that you really want to do? Then let's start planning on it. Let's get a team behind you to help you achieve that. When we talk to clients to do a tax preparation, typically clients are like, well, I just drop off my stuff with my tax preparer. I do it myself on TurboTax. My tax person's so busy, they only see me for 5 minutes and I'm done. Well, that's because you're dealing with a service of preparation, and it's just kind of throwing in some numbers, whatever it spits out, that's the result, right? What we want to do, the message we want to spread is that if you meet with your preparer or your advisor throughout the year, then we get to project. We get to see, if you fully funded things like maybe your 401k. Do you have enough purchasing power to buy a property, a rental? Does it have to, where do you qualify for? And so we start looking and then connecting you with teams that can help you buy a property in, say, Alabama or Ohio or Florida or wherever you can afford it. And so we start to create passive income. And then my strategy is, how do we make that passive income tax-free, right? So that's what I do. That's what Prominence Business is all about. And it's family owned. We're very, we all have that same mentality, is we came from very little, but it doesn't really matter how much you make. It's what you do with your money that really matters. And individuals that are W-2 earning individuals and have, a profession or make a lot of money, they just pay so much in tax. It is sad, right? Yeah. And they're stuck in this rat race of paying all these taxes. But if you just sit down and plan, there is a way that we could turn that around for you. It doesn't happen overnight. Planning is what it is, right? There's a path you have to take, but it's so achievable. And that's where I get so excited to help people, whether you're a W-2 or a small business owner. It's all very doable.
Yeah. Yeah. And then kind of next question is, we have, kind of we know what you do. And then, so kind of talk about, this lack of financial literacy is a problem for everyone. So, and schools are not teaching financial literacy, but, money is what makes the world go around. And it's very important. People say money is not important. It's important in the sense that you need it to live in, it's not
Right.
to buy fancy cars or anything, but it's like, so talk about this. And it's not just the poor and marginalized, it's the entire world.
Yes. I mean, I think society in general, we're going through a shift, and we have to kind of realize that money is not necessarily the root of all evil, right? Which is what we have been led to believe. Anything that is in the hands of somebody that doesn't have the right focus, will be turned into a bad thing, right? Whether it's money or a weapon, or it doesn't really matter, right? It'll be bad if it's in the hands of the wrong person. But if you have certain goals and you're clear on what you want to do and you build this wealth, then you can turn around and you can help tons of millions of people, because you built an empire, you built generational wealth, and now you control something that you could do good with if that's what you wish to do, right? What I try to educate my clients on is, if we learn a little bit about how to have money work for us instead of us working for money, that's where you really start to see the shift. Money will make money even while you sleep, but we need to learn, how is it that we do that? How can we make money work for us instead of us selling our hours? I mean, all of us start off and learn that we have to go to work in order to make money. And it's true to a certain extent. But when I deal with an individual, and I'll use one of my sisters as an example, she was a starving student while she went to school and became a registered nurse, right? And as soon as she got her first paying job with, a regional hospital, she was making more money than she had ever made, because she was always a starving student. And she goes, what do I do? And I was like, well, let me help you. Right. So I totally helped her set up all her finances. And I'm like, look, just because you're making money now, don't change your lifestyle. Leave it as the poor, starving student. But now let's turn around and make something of your money. And she is amazed that by age 30, she has more than she ever thought she would have. And that's because we started off by teaching her how her money can work for her, instead of her going to work for her money. And so her coworkers are like, how is it that you did this? Like, how is it? They're like, we're barely making ends meet. And yet they all make very good salary. And she's like, I don't know, ask my sister, And it's because the more money we make, the more money we spend. And before you know it, we are living a lifestyle that we can barely afford. And I think that if we were to look at things a little bit different and learn how to use money to work for us, man, we would all be way better off, and not having to be so stressed that we have to work 1 or 2 jobs or a side hustle or whatever,
Yeah. Yeah. It's quite interesting. Because, the way, because basically money is financial energy. And so the best description is, basically the government has no risk, because they can print as much as they want, and they've got fractional reserve, at least for now. But, and basically inflation, taxes, debt, and they can create these asset bubbles. And, so that works against us. And as the cost of living, if you're trading your time, there's only so much time you have to, in order to keep up with all of that, you have to, make in the thousands per hour. Right. And if you're using your earned income, your labor, that's like taxed at least, 30 to 50% or more. So, so you have to learn how to invest, build a business, entrepreneur. That's where you leverage all these different assets, and you're not leveraging your time, and which brings me to my next question is this question of you talk about number one way business owners can gain more capital and passive income in business. So talk about that idea.
So what I do with some of the passive income strategies, and again, it just depends on your goals, right? So it doesn't work for everyone. It just depends on what it is that you want to do. But where I find some opportunity is I'll have clients come in who are, doctors, or they have a profession of some sort. And they're like, look, I've heard that I could do some real estate stuff, but I just don't know how or whatever. Yeah. Or I'm just tired of paying all these taxes, right? And so you look at their stuff and you're like, wow, you are paying like 40, 50% of, your income is going to taxes. So what we do there is we start to strategize and we start to paint a picture and say, you have something that small business owners wish they had sometimes when the beginning, and that is a high adjusted gross income. Lenders love your purchasing power when you get paid W-2, because it's easy to prove your income, right? They just have to make one phone call your employer, you work there, great, you really make, X amount of money. So that allows you to qualify for mortgages a lot quicker than when you're a small business owner and you have to prove your income and, where's the money going and all this other stuff. Yeah. So W-2 earners have purchasing power.
Yeah.
Well, now we put them together and it's called Real Estate Inclined. It's a membership that we created, and now you have access to teams all across the United States. And what they do is then they'll say, okay, well, what's, your down payment will be this. What can you afford? What is it that you're looking for? And these properties. And so now all of a sudden you have individuals buying properties out of state. Mm-hmm. These properties cash flow if that's what you want them to do. And then they'll cash flow. And then we can turn around and use things like, depreciation and cost segregations and things like that to offset that income. So now that income comes to your pocket tax-free, right? Yeah. And so, or sometimes if depending on, if there's a spouse involved, we can maybe have the spouse, take care of all of the real estate stuff, and they start to do real estate professional, and it releases all those losses and it brings down your W-2. So, but again, I like to show the client. So when the client's either with me on a Zoom meeting or next to me here, I share my screen and I show them, I'm like, look how cool this would be if I can do this, if I can do that. And so they're like, ooh, I like that. And I'm like, okay, so here's your homework, right? If you want your tax return to look like this and you want to get a refund instead of you owing, or if you want to pay less taxes overall, go do this, right? And so they start to do their homework and start to check off all the boxes so we make the IRS happy, right? And then the tax return ends up looking the way you want it to look. More money in your pocket, less taxes to have to be paid, and yet you have assets that are appreciating over time. And, maybe they could help you retire early, whatever those goals are that you want to work towards. We just help you paint that path and then tell you what steps we've got to take to make sure that you can get there,
Yeah.
So it's definitely working side by side with clients so that they understand the tax code, so they understand how everything's working, and so that they do their homework. More than happy to do it because they know that at the end, there's more money in their pocket.
Yeah. It's quite interesting. You see a light bulb turn on when, for example, physicians and, they're working really hard and, like these little tweaks and these little adjustments, and they basically, save hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes, and they have more time, they have more freedom. I kind of want to conclude next question is talking about establishing sustainable legacy via tax-free passive earnings for future generational wealth, working not for yourself, or your kids, but like your kids' kids, the next generation. Right. Talk about that.
So again, once we start to really plan, and if that's a goal, right, then we design whatever your steps are that you have to do now to create something that's going to continue to give. So turning on faucets, right? What I call, because the clients that have really created something like this, what we do is they like to purchase properties in different states throughout the United States, right? And so what I call these are seeds, right? You're planting little seeds, and they're going to be fruitful. And this is a long-term play. But what's beautiful about it is that these rents keep up with inflation. They're scattered across the United States, just like you diversify your stocks, they diversify their real estate. And then you get to see how other parts of the country work. So, sometimes there's industry shifts, sometimes there's weather, whatever it is, but you get to learn about all these other places. And then when you travel, now you can all of a sudden write it off if you're going to go visit these properties. So it's kind of cool how we design that, right? But if you're trying to create something that is for generations and generations to come, there's ways that we can meet with our attorneys that'll help you design like asset protection and trust and land trust and all this cool stuff, so that these properties, once the seed has been planted, it'll continue to give and give and give. And it's designed for that money to grow. So you continue to work now that you can, and you're still young and you're healthy or whatever. And then these properties and their cash flow goes into another type of account that is still growing and continuing. It's invested in its own way. And so now you have another portfolio that's also working for you. So you kind of have the real estate, you kind of have the cash flow working for you. And so before you know it, it's like it just starts to accumulate. And you're like, now I have an option. I maybe want to retire early. Maybe you want to take some time off work. Maybe, you have options because you've got all these little seeds that you planted that are producing for you. And now you get to decide what it is that you truly want to do that truly makes you happy. And if going to work makes you happy, then great, right? But if you want to take time off because you want to figure something else, you also can do so. And that's the beauty of giving you options, is that you have a little less stress than you would if your job is the only income producing. If you yourself, your labor, your hours are the only income producing.
Yeah. And like I said, for doctors, to have one income is kind of dangerous, because if that's like your largest income, and if it goes away, for example, in COVID, then a lot of doctors got in trouble during that time.
Yeah.
But doctors are really interesting because kind of you have this kind of a little bit of job security, you have healthcare, but then you have one shock to the system, and and so it's like you have to always be cognizant that can get affected. You got insurance that's cutting down on your reimbursements.
Yeah.
So that's quite of a large existential risk. If people want to contact you, follow you, check out your work, reach out to you, etc., how can they do so?
So, like I said, my mission is to try to get this message out as much as possible to help people really learn how to leverage themselves, have money work for themselves. So what I do is we have all our social media. Prominence .services is our Instagram, and we have the Facebook. And so I'm trying to be out there as much as possible. Our podcast is called Tax Talk with Hey. And it's a lot less about, necessarily tax, but it's about that mindset. Because I feel like if we can all shift the way that we look at our, the way that we work for our money, the way that we look at money in general, that makes such a huge difference, And so that in my podcast, I bring guests to talk about the things that we are either doing or have done, and other struggles that we may be having. But at the end of the day, I feel like spreading the message that there's another way that you can be really proactive with your taxes and your finances versus being reactive and doing what we've been taught to do for so many years that just is not working anymore.
Yeah. And for all the audience out there, let's thank Sugey for coming on. Again, financial literacy, very important. Saving on taxes, passive income. Be sure to check out our socials, give her a follow. And with that, thanks so much for coming on to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate it.